Good morning, everybody. Oh, whew. It was a pretty emotional RNC last night. The military families of the 13 service members who were killed at Abbey Gate were on last night, and I was bawling like a baby listening to those families and just feeling their grief and their disappointment and in the Biden administration, and then their appreciation for a man like Trump that actually he's not even the president at the moment, and this isn't his administration yet. He steps up and meets with these families and makes them feel heard and makes them feel like their sons and daughters and nieces and nephews lives mattered, that they didn't give it up in vain. It was sad listening to them and how Biden hasn't even said any of their names. But of course, Biden has a problem saying the names of anybody who's been killed on his watch. And the fact that he lied in his was it the debate or an interview where he was saying that nobody was killed in his watch, militarily wise. And how devastating that must have been to those families when they heard those words. Just absolutely devastating. But the same goes for any of the victims of the illegal crime also. Good morning, Laura. It goes to all of the victims of illegal crime also. Biden never utters a name hardly of any of them. I think he did Laken Riley, but I think he messed up the name. And it's just they don't want to acknowledge the death and destruction that happens under their watch. Wouldn't it be crazy to have them say the names of every woman who's had an abortion and felt encouraged and did it because Kamala talks about it all the time, and it's okay, and it's not something that's against nature. But I don't think the Democrats have those kind of emotional feelings, those kind of ties to humankind. They don't have those types of connections. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us. They're the party of death and destruction. All of the things that they stand up for. And for a while there, I couldn't believe how many times that I would be getting on Instagram and Kamala Harris would have another post up about women's rights. Yet the topic of discussion in her post was abortion and killing babies. That's not women's health. Women's health is a woman who's proactively taking care of her health in a healthy way and not getting pregnant if that's not something that she wants to do. Mistakes happen. But you know what? There's consequences for mistakes. And sometimes you have to just buckle up and step up and take care of the situations that you've created in life. And killing a baby isn't the answer to that one. That's just a sin committed on top of a mistake. Not that I'm saying the baby is a mistake, but the actions leading up to that, if that isn't what the woman wanted or the man wanted. Anyway, I also was super impressed by President Trump's granddaughter. What a beautiful young lady she was. That beautiful smile. And you could tell she was just so proud of her grandfather. And when they were showing Trump when she was speaking, you could just tell how proud he is of her. And I didn't realize that she was such a good golfer. She's actually won some women's championships down there at Mar-a-Lago. So that's pretty cool. And I watched a couple of videos of her, teeing off and stuff. Woo, what form that girl has. I used to golf. I haven't for quite a while, but that little girl has form. And I can see why she's winning championships down there. But I love the part where she said, if I ever golf with my grandpa and we're on the opposite teams, He always tries to get into my head, but I told him, you can't get into my head. I'm a Trump. I thought that was, I chuckled at that. I thought that was pretty funny. Again, Trump looked, tired last night. I think I saw a couple times where I think he was trying to get up. I mean, I can't even imagine how sore that man is from head to toe from being tackled by those Secret Service guys. Can you imagine? I mean, he ducked down, and then you have all of those muscular men diving in on top of you. He's got to be hurting, and I bet he's on pain pills because of it. I mean, oof. I wouldn't want to be tackled by all those Secret Service guys. So those two speeches stuck out to me last night. I did enjoy J.D. Vance's speech. As I'm listening to the TV, as I'm getting ready, of course, the liberal media, of course, is just having cows about it. Oh, he wasn't that forceful. We were expecting, red meat coming out of J.D. Vance, and he's not going to get the votes, and he's not going to do this, to help President Trump out. Listen, folks, there's ways. That's J.D. Vance. That's how he is. I believe he's a humble man who came from humble beginnings. He hasn't forgotten those things. But get a load of what the stupid liberal media was saying when I was listening to. Because JD was talking about the fact that his family has a plot in Kentucky where all of his ancestors before him have been buried, his family. And he talked about him and his wife and hopefully their kids being buried there also. And so, of course, liberal media, I don't know if it was CNN or MSNBC, because they were showing clips of it, they had to say, what about his wife's Indian family? What about their culture? This is just making it about white men and white history. And it was just like MSNBC and CNN are so racist, and they're always trying to bring the racist angle into any and every story when it comes to conservatives or Trump supporters in specifics. They love to insert that in a story however they can. And it's disgusting. This is a genuine, humble man up there just talking about his family and his upbringing and who he is. He's letting America know who I am. And here's where I came from. And here's my aspirations. And here's what I want to do for America. And I'm standing by Trump. And, 7 generations of my family are buried in this cemetery. 7 generations. And liberal media's got to make it about race. It's disgusting what they do. I will never, ever let any reporter, any of the, Democrats that I'm running against, I will never, ever let them bring that up to me again. Because they accuse me of being a violent racist. And the funny thing about that is, all through, ever since, Brandon's death, I was always talking about illegal immigration, for sure. That's all I've been doing, 10 plus years. And, but I've never mentioned the nationality of that guy who killed my son. I've always just said an illegal criminal. And that's what he was. I don't care about what country he came from. I don't care about the color of his skin. I don't care about what religion he was. I don't care about any of that. What matters to me is he was a criminal and he was illegally present in our country. He didn't belong here. That's it. That's what Angel Families is about. Innocent Americans killed by people who are illegally present in our country, regardless of where they came from. So there's nobody in this world who's ever heard me talk when I'm talking about angel families and all of this illegal immigration stuff. There's nobody that has ever heard me say, uttered out of my word, even in private conversations, about the color of somebody's skin or their race or their culture or their religion. Never. Could care less. I look to the character of a person. The character of those illegal criminals who are here. Number one, you're a criminal. Your character speaks volumes that you've committed crimes. Number two, that you had the audacity to think that you could enter a country illegally and live here. And then commit crimes on top of it. You know, when I retweeted about the Federal Reserve, I'm wanting to point out the character of the founders of the Federal Reserve and their intentions and the harm that they've done to our country. And the Federal Reserve, you know, folks, they don't want these wars to end. They're not going to want Trump in office. They don't want world peace because the Federal Reserve makes money when there's wars, because the Federal Reserve finances both sides of the war. They don't pick sides. They finance both sides of the war. Any and every war that goes on in the world. And there's a reason why some countries have not allowed these central banks and the Federal Reserve, the central banks offshoots of them, to come into their countries. They know the power and the hold that they keep over their countries and what they've done. I mean, you know, the U.S. Treasury is under the federal government here in the United States. And, you know, that's why there's been a lot of assassination attempts. JFK, you know, there was rumblings about him and getting rid of the Federal Reserve and going back to the Treasury. Trump's talked about it. There's a reason why these evil people who have a hold on power and greed and have a hold over the outcomes and what is going to happen in the future, why they don't want to lose that. They can't afford to lose it. You know, I was talking a little bit yesterday about the fact that there's too much blackmail. There's too much nefarious goings on that people know about each other in the government. And there's some central, I'm sure of it, there's some central blackmail vault. They got it all in there. Who are these people who are holding all of this information? You know, just like the child sex trafficking and the pedophilia and all that type of stuff. That's why the Jeffrey Epstein list. I mean, I think lists have been put out, but it's never going to be the actual people that could really get harmed by it, because they will always hold that information back to use at the right moment. They're not just going to freely give the information out if they've got somebody with the chain around their neck who's in the government, and they're going to keep that information from when it's absolutely necessary to use and yank that chain and get them back in line. That's the sick thing about modern society. You think back, I mean, I know this has gone on all through history where people have, you know, blackmailed people or brought information forward about somebody or used it to coerce them into doing something, you know, that they wouldn't normally do, or else we're going to get this information out. That's gone on forever. But I think I'm getting my first glimpse and the first feel, you know, several years ago, reading some books about how it has permeated the federal government, is my point. I don't know how I'm getting off on all this today. And we have our trusty little Bella making sure that nobody comes into my front yard. She's been a naughty little girl because she has been barking incessantly. If she sees somebody out that front window, she's out, and if they're heading a certain way, she's out the doggy door, and then she goes to that side yard, whatever side of the house people are heading to, so that she can bark at him. Because my fence, I get irrigation here on my lot every 2 weeks, where it completely floods my yard. It's flood irrigation, much cheaper way to keep green grass here in Arizona. And there's only limited areas in the valley that still have flood irrigation like that available to you as a homeowner. But so they turn the blocks on the side, like underneath the gates on either side of the house, so that the water can flow, because there's a port in the backyard where I screwed the top off, and the water comes up, floods the yard, and flows through those holes. So she sticks her nose through, lays down and sticks her nose through so that she can really tell these people off good as they're walking by the gate area. So she's quite the character. Anyway, so tonight is going to be Trump's speech, the acceptance speech, and I just heard that it's going to be about an hour and a half. So grab your popcorn and grab a soda or a cup of coffee and get yourself settled in, because we all know how he goes off script, and it's probably going to be more like an hour and 45 minutes or maybe even 2 hours. But I'm noticing, looking at him last night, and like I was saying, I know that he's probably sore from being tackled by Secret Service, but there's a softness to him. And I think looking at his granddaughter and her talking about, she's so thankful that he's safe and okay after the attempt on his life on Saturday. I think it's been like, wow, that was a real close one. And the seriousness of running for president and the threat you are to the world, honestly, and that people want to kill you. I mean, I can't imagine. Think about it. Think about if somebody attempted that on your life and you had to go out the door the next day and go somewhere. I mean, think about what your life becomes when something has happened to you like that. And God forbid, I mean, I'm sure he has, because he's seen the videos where, and I don't know if any of you have, it's a video of him from a front angle, and he's got his hat on, Make America Great hat, and he has his head turned, and this way, and it shows where the bullet was aimed. It was like right here, and then he slightly turned his head, and so it went past his head instead of into his head. I mean, it made me sick to my stomach seeing it, and I'm not even the person that this was done to. Just think about watching stuff like that if that had been you. Whew. It is sorry, my allergies are bad today. I think this wind that we're having, the wind, but no monsoon storms, is stirring up a lot of allergy producing stuff out here in Arizona. So I want to ask an opinion, and tell me type in your comments what you think. But they've been showing, and it's only, the pictures I've seen has only been Arizona delegates with patches on their ears. What do you guys think about that? Supposedly, in support of him. But I just think it's just a bad look. I haven't seen any other states representative or delegates doing that. It's only been pictures of Arizona. And I kind of feel like, the Republican National Convention is a place to be a little more professional. I've heard there's been squabbles there between delegates in certain states, and it's so ridiculous the way that Republicans behave themselves. And why I'm saying this about the patch over the ear too is because this is what liberals are doing. They're making fun of it. They're saying it's not necessary. It's just a prop. It's just a way to get sympathy votes. And so for any delegates to be wearing it, it's almost like they're mocking him, is the way I look at it. And trust me, I'm a full-fledged mega supporter. Been with Trump many, many times, support him 100%. So it has nothing to do with me not being a Trump supporter. I put it in one of these Telegram chats the other night, and this guy started attacking me. I said, this isn't a good look, and put the picture. And he said, well, your opinion doesn't matter. And if you're not MAGA, you need to jump on now. And it's like, I responded, I'm like, you don't even know me, And I said, your opinion's all over the place on this thread. And I can't even remember what he said back, something else stupid. And I just thought, this isn't worth the waste of my time. And I just left the chat. I thought, I can't deal with stupid Republicans like that. If he even is a Republican, he's probably a Democrat in a Patriots of Arizona chat trying to stir up some trouble. So I'm hoping that this speech tonight is about unity, and that the Republicans across the nation really, really listen to this. The true conservative Republicans who are backing this president up. I hope you listen and take everything he says to heart and emulate that and be that person. Be kind and uniting. And try and have a conversation. We complain about you're never able to have a conversation with a liberal or a Democrat. I'm watching that unfold here in Arizona, where Republicans can't even have conversations with each other. It's ridiculous, the amount of videos that I've watched on private chats coming out of legislative district meetings. She's put her ball underneath the couch again. The fights, the infighting that's happening at Republican legislative district meetings. Why? Most of the Republican conservatives that I've met and that I know are reasonable people. And you can easily have a conversation with them. And you can have differing views on things. But you're still able to converse and have that conversation and shake hands and see you next week at the next meeting or whatever. That's usually the mindset of a reasonable person. You can't go through life thinking that your opinion is the only thing that matters. And it's your way or the highway. I mean, what types of relationships can endure that kind of mindset? My way or the highway, and I'm right, and you're not going to be able to have a conversation about our differencing of opinion. Marriages fall apart because of that. Friendships fall apart because of that. And when it's not a marriage and it's not a friendship, but you're a fellow Republican, my goodness, people just let those, well, that person's not my friend, and they're not my relative, and they're not my family and whatnot, and the hell with it. I'm going to say what I want to them, and, blank you. And it's just like, I mean, I've witnessed this happen in person at events, out in the community. Why? Why can't we all understand that the burden is on us as conservative Republicans to come together and save this country? Our support and our vote is what matters in November. Support not only of the president, support not only of the United States and the Constitution, but support of our fellow Republicans. And who cares if Robert's rules was, taken out of context, or it wasn't followed to the T at the LD meeting? That's not a reason for a fist fight to break out. Come on, folks. We're better than that. We're way better than that. I've got an appointment to get to today, so I am going to have to cut this off early today a little bit, and I apologize for that because I was late getting on here, but it's a crazy day. So we're going to hear from President Trump tonight at the RNC. Yay, I'm so excited. I'm very excited for the Arizona delegates to get back. We've got several of the delegates that are right out of our legislative district here in West Mesa, and we have our monthly meeting this coming Thursday, so I'm going to be very excited to hear from them. And I'm really excited. Having been at the RNC in 2016, I'm really excited to hear the experience that these people have had going to it, because I just remember walking around and a lot of the speakers, that were actually there were walking around, and you were able to stop and have a conversation with them and get a picture taken. And I remember I was backstage at the 2016 RNC, getting in the green room, getting makeup and hair done. And somebody came in and said, Sheriff David Clark's out there, because that was the man I really wanted to meet. I had seen him so many times on Fox News, and I have so much respect for him. And I really, really, really wanted to meet him. And so I got up in the middle of the girl fixing my hair, and I ran out into the hallway, and I said, Sheriff Clark. And he turned around and he goes, yes. And I said, can I get a picture with you? I said, my experience at the RNC is complete. I was hoping that I would be able to meet you, and I finally have, and now my experience is complete. And so that really kind of, made him chuckle and stuff. And so we got a picture together. We talked for a little bit, told him about Brandon. And then fast forward a few years, and he was on the advisory board for We Build the Wall with me. And, also. And one of the first trips that we made down to McAllen, Texas, and had our first big meeting with all the advisors and all the board members. The second day we were there, because he's a very quiet man, but the second day that we were there, he was eating breakfast alone kind of across the dining room. And so I walked over and I said, can I join you? And he goes, absolutely. And so I sat down, and what a wonderful man. And we had several, evening chats after our meetings were over, or the daily excursion down to the border and talking with some of the Texas officials at the time was over. We'd come back to the hotel, and, we'd sit and chat some more. A very interesting man. That stuck out to me the most there at the RNC in 2016. I remember meeting Rudy Giuliani and, Mike Flynn, his son. There's a bunch of them, and I was kind of new to the political world. And so he does come to your county for the police award ceremony. That's really cool, Paul. He's a really genuine dude. And Paul's talking about Sheriff Clark. He's a real genuine guy. Appreciate him so much. Because he just speaks the truth, and he's so honest, and he cuts those race baiters, at MSNBC and CNN off at the knees. They're such idiots. Love how he handles them. It's perfect. But anyway, so it was quite the experience. And in 2016, that was 2 years after my son was killed. And, honestly, I was still kind of in shock at the time, and not really up to speed about who all these politicians were. I mean, I was busy living my life. I had raised 4 kids. I was a single mom, the majority of my children's life, and a busy realtor here and working, and I wasn't really heavily politically involved. And so 2 years after my son's death is when I was really getting introduced to politics. I remember Brandon Darby was a writer for Breitbart, and I got to know him because he was an advisor there for We Build the Wall. So I got to meet him there. But I had seen him also in 2016 at the RNC. It was really weird. I was coming out of a sandwich shop that, of course, was in the big enclosed, chain linked in area protecting us there in Milwaukee. No, Cleveland we were at. And we were walking out and going to walk towards the hotel. And this guy comes running up the street with the backpack on, comes around the corner where we were kind of headed, squats down on the ground, and he goes, come here, come here, come here. And we started talking to him. He goes, just stand here and talk to me. And we were kind of like shielding him. And these guys went by on bicycles and stuff, and found out it was Brandon Darby. And I guess there was a kind of like a hit out on him because of the reporting that he was doing down at the board and the report that he was doing through Breitbart about the cartel and stuff. And so that's how I met Brandon Darby. And then I ended up seeing him again with We Build the Wall. So there was two guys that I met there at the convention in 2016 and then met again through We Build the Wall. So that was pretty ironic. But yeah, it's quite the experience being at the RNC. It's overwhelming. And of course, because we were speakers, it was a little different experience than when you're a delegate. And I had some friends give me their delegate neck thing, lanyard, so that I was able to go down on the floor and just be down there by, the delegates from Arizona there in 2016 and look up from a different vantage point because, we were sitting up and looking down at the delegates. Ooh, it's quite a heady rush. And so I'm pretty excited to hear from our legislative district, our precinct committee men and women who are there and want to hear about their experience. So anyway, I got a skedoodle today. And again, I'm so sorry that it's a short show today, but I will be back on Tuesday. That must be the words that tips her off, because she's a crazy dog, but these border collies are pretty smart, aren't they? So I'm not going to say BYE because then it'll make her bark again, but that's what I'm saying to y'all. So on Tuesday, we will have a great show. I'm trying to get a guest on, and you guys all have a great weekend and enjoy President Trump tonight.